What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next, thought I'd give an update on the collection I recently bought because it's been about 1 month, so let's see how things are going. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So there's something, I've watched a lot of different YouTube videos, people that buy collections, that kind of thing, and I hadn't really seen a video on someone doing kind of like an update partway through how things were going, things like costs, sales, that kind of thing. Now maybe somebody has done one, I just haven't seen it, but so I thought it might be something interesting to talk about just to kind of get a perspective from me, because this is the first collection that I bought, see how things are going, what types of costs have gone into it, time, and where things are with sales so far, and what I plan to do continuing moving forward. Now, if you haven't watched that video, about a month ago, I drove down to Central Virginia, bought a collection of comics that were found in a shed. Now, one of the members of the comic community reached out to me about this collection, let me know that this person was interested in selling. So I went down there, looked through the collection, talked with the seller, and we came to a deal on the books. Now, this collection, if you remember, was in pretty rough shape. A lot of the books had completely detached covers, split spines, that kind of thing. So on average, those books I estimated were between about a 0.5 and a 4.5. There were a couple that I think exceeded that got into kind of like the 5.0 range, but most of them were in this lower grade because of things like bug chew and water damage that had just gotten to the books over the years since they'd been in the shed. Now, one of the things that was a big positive for this collection, despite the condition, was that they were all silver and bronze age books, and most of them from the Marvel run. There were a few DC books in there, but mostly Marvel, and there were a few keys, and luckily some of those keys were on the higher end of that condition range, but there were definitely some that were on that lower end. So the first thing that I thought I'd talk about is the cost. What went into this collection? Because then we can see how we're doing moving forward, selling the books, what I plan on doing with them afterwards or continuing on. So the price of the collection, what I paid, and it was around, I'd say, 150 books, something like that. It wasn't a big collection. It was basically in a plastic tub, and I paid $700 for those 150 books. Then you've got to take into account the fact that I had to drive down there. It was a pretty decent drive, and so it was about $40 in gas. We all know gas is super expensive right now, and this was a little before it had gotten real crazy on price, so I didn't have quite as high of a gas bill that I would have had. And then bags and boards, because none of this was bagged and boarded, and we know how expensive bags and boards have gotten now. So bags and boards for these was about 50 bucks. Then after I had evaluated the books, there were two immediately that I decided I wanted to have pressed and graded. And so I sent those off to the presser that I'm using for this large CGC submission that I'm doing right now. And so that was the Avengers 48, the first appearance of the Black Knight, and the Fantastic Four 67, the first cameo appearance of of Adam Warlock. And so the pressing for those two books, because I fast-tracked everything, was $70. And then the grading for those two books, because they're both going to be in the economy fast-track tier, was $90. So total for pressing and grading of those two books was $160. They're still with the presser right now. They'll then get sent off to CGC, and I will probably see them in like 4 or 5 months. So I paid for fast-track, but I mean, we'll see. I think even fast-track economy is still like 100 days, and that's business days, so that's like 4 months, and that's once they get there and they open it. So my total investment so far into this collection is $950. Now, the other thing is you can't just look at your cost in dollars. You also have to look at your cost in time, and that's one of the big restrictions, I think, when people are buying these collections that are just tons and tons of long boxes and short boxes, just thousands and thousands of books. Processing a collection that is that large is a significant amount of time, because just processing these books was a pretty substantial amount of time to work through. And so I also looked at what my time investment was. And so I had to drive down and review the collection, drive back. That total time was around 8 hours. Then processing those books, so going through bagging and boarding, looking through making sure that they were all complete, if there were any cutouts, because I did find one book that had a cutout, plenty of them had split spines, that kind of thing, and you want to make sure that you know all that if you're going to be selling these books to other people. And so processing of those books was around 5 hours, and so that was, like I said, 100 books that I had to bag, page counts on all of them, checking for completion, and then listing the books for sale. Now, I have not listed everything for sale yet. I've done a pretty limited amount of listings so far, and so that's been about 2 hours, because whenever I'm listing books, if I'm doing it on eBay, you've got to take tons of pictures. I make sure I go through and find what the flaws are, and I grade the book so that I can provide an estimate of that grade to whoever's buying them. And so my total time investment right now is 15 hours, but I could easily see that exceeding 20, 25 hours by the time it's all said and done when I'm listing more books, because even though I evaluated the book in the first place, when I reviewed them, made sure they were complete, and I made any notes if they weren't, when you're going through, at least for me, when I'm going through, if I'm listing a book on eBay, I'm going to put notes in my description to describe those flaws, because I've learned if you don't, it can come back to bite you. So you want to be as clear as possible when you're making those listings. So you can look at time however you want, because I mean, some people have more free time than others. Time to me is one of the more valuable assets that I have, because I'm very busy. And so when I look at how much time I'd need to spend to go through these books, you can put a dollar value on that, whatever that is for you. But so in this case, 15 hours, 25 hours, if you put $10, $20, $30, whatever you want to put on that time, that all adds up into what you're really investing into this collection. All right, so now let's talk about the sales side of this, because when you're buying these books, I mean, the whole reason is that you're trying to get some type of return on your investment into those books, because you're spending a lot of time and a fair amount of money, and you want to see a return on that. So I have started to sell some of the books. I haven't gone and tried to sell a lot of the big keys yet. I don't know why. I've just kind of been holding them back and trying to sell some of the other books to start. Now, there were 2 books that I sold almost right away, and that's because when I posted the original video, I had 2 people reach out to me after they watched the video. One of them was Vincent McLean, the Comic Machine. He has a YouTube channel if you want to go check him out. He purchased the Hulk 105, so that was the one that I sold for $70. Then another member of the community reached out and wanted the Nick Fury #4, so I sold that one for $25. Now, the rest of them are ones that I've listed and sold either on Instagram or on eBay. The Captain America 117 and 118 I put as a lot on eBay. That sold for $150. And so that's something to just always be aware of. I mean, the Captain America 117 is a pretty low-grade book, but it's an important key. And so even in low grades, they're going to hold a lot of value. And so I call that it has a high baseline value. So almost no matter what condition the book is in, it's going to have a certain value regardless of that. Now, the next one was a Tales to Astonish and Hulk lot, and that was about 10 or 12 books that I sold for $125, mostly Silver Age with a couple bronze in there. Then on Instagram, I sold a number of the Amazing Spider-Man books. It was maybe like 13 or 14 in a single sale, and that was for $235. It was a lot of Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man. A lot of them were in lower grade, but regardless, Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man, I think it averaged out to about $15 a book. I feel like that's a pretty solid deal for Silver Age ASM. And there were a few keys in there too, like the first appearance of the Prowler, that kind of thing. Now, then I also sold the Fantastic Four lot. Again, that was about 10 or 11 books on eBay for $111. So with that, I then have the fees. There's shipping, there's eBay fees, there's PayPal fees, and those fees were $83.85. And so total that I have kind of like gotten in sales after fees so far has been $632.15. Now, since I am into the collection $950 so far, that means I'm still down $217.85, but I do have a lot of great books left, and so it's not like I'm concerned about not making my money back on this. I actually think I'll do pretty well on this collection, but that's just where I stand right now. So then what books do I have remaining? What do I think I can still do moving forward with this collection? So I've got some of the key issues here, or most of the key issues here that I still have. So I still have, I kept some of the, what I'll call the bigger Amazing Spider-Man books, the ones that were in a little better condition. I have the Amazing Spider-Man number 46, which is the first Shocker. I have Amazing Spider-Man number 51, which is the second Kingpin, first cover appearance of Kingpin. Then I have this Amazing Spider-Man number 52, which is the third appearance of Kingpin, and just kind of a classic cover with Spider-Man on there tied up. And then Amazing Spider-Man number 55, which is a classic Doc Ock cover. So the main thing with 55 and 52 was that they generally seemed like they were in a little better condition. They were kind of near that 4.45 range, and so I decided to hold those back. Then I have this copy of Captain America 109. I also have a 110 and a 111. Those are listed on eBay right now. 110 is actually kind of a medium key, a moderate key, because it's the first appearance of Madam Hydra, and it's also a classic Steranko cover, but that one is pretty beat up. Then I have a couple X-Men books. I have X-Men 7, which is a 0.5. You can see missing a huge chunk out of the cover. And then X-Men 40, which is the first appearance of Frankenstein in Marvel Comics. So just a cool little minor key. Then out of DC, I had this Green Lantern number 40. So I thought that was a cool little book. Again, it's got that bug chew on the cover. So it's a lower grade, but still a nice, kind of like a cool Green Lantern key. Then we've got Marvel Team Up number 1. This is actually another one of the nicer condition books. So you can see it's actually, it's got some spine wear and that kind of thing, but actually a pretty nice presenting copy. And then here, this one is relevant right now, Marvel Team Up number 3. This is the third appearance of Morbius, and so this actually has some value to it. It didn't used to, but it definitely has some value to it now. And then I also have a few Thor books that were in nicer condition, and so we've got Thor 147, which I always just thought was a real cool Thor Loki cover. Thor number 148, which I believe is the first appearance of the Wrecker. I'd have to go and check and confirm that, but just another, nicer, decent presenting early Thor book or Silver Age Thor book. And then this one, I've always loved this cover, Thor 150, just an awesome Hela cover. I think it's exactly how she looked in the movie. I think this is a really cool cover for Hela. And then the last Thor book here that was the biggest one out of the Thor books was Thor number 168, which is the first part of the Galactus origin story. And you've got the, I always joke it's the short shorts Galactus, but yeah, so you can see I do have a number of the keys that are still left. I also have a couple lots of books left. I have a Thor and Journey into Mystery lot, just one Journey into Mystery book. I think it's issue 108, and then some early Thor books. I have a Daredevil lot and an Iron Man lot, and then just some other Silver Age books. So you can see I do have other books. I'll have no problem exceeding the amount that I spent on the collection. I think if I maximize what I sell here, there might be another $2,000 in books here. After sales fees and shipping and all of that, I would say about $1,700 maybe left in books. So what I see there is about $1,500 off of around a $950 investment, plus around 20 to 25 hours of my time. And so when you break that out, 20 to 25 hours of your time into about $1,500, that's not a bad return on investment. But one of the things you've got to remember when you're buying a collection, you're doing this kind of thing, is that you're also using your experience, your knowledge to identify those books, identify those keys. You've built, maybe a way to sell the books, like my eBay store, those kinds of things where it makes it so you have a platform to move the books, and putting in all the time for things like pricing. I didn't even talk about pricing on the books because that's just something else where you're going through and checking and make sure that you're pricing books correctly. All those things take time. So I see that as a little more than doubling my money on the investment that I put into the books. And so I think that's a pretty reasonable, fair return when you talk about what you're paying for a collection and what you expect to get back. Now, I could have probably made a little more off of the lots when I'm selling if I had sold them individually, say I went and did them on something like Whatnot. But to me, there's also time that goes into things like shipping, and I do not enjoy shipping. Packaging books, because I make sure everything is very safe when I package them. So packaging books takes a fair amount of time to make sure everything gets there safe. So to me, if a book is below a certain value, I'd rather just sell it as a lot than try to get that absolute maximum value for each book. But if you were going to buy a collection and you were going to approach how you wanted to get that return on it, you could always take a different approach. You could go and try to sell each book individually. You'll make more money, but it'll be a lot more time. Or you try to sell them off as a lot like I did. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, this little update on where I am with this collection buy right now, where I think it will get eventually when I've sold all the books. There might be one or two that I keep. I may keep one of them just kind of as a, I don't know, I'll call it like a memento from the first collection that I bought. Haven't decided which one that might be yet though. But again, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here if you'd like to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.